talking about Richard Crockett Bushnell, who was born Crocker. Okay, Richard Crocker Bushnell, who was born June 11th, 1909, in Connecticut. Not really sure. Was he born here? He was born in Providence, Rhode Island. Yeah. Okay. So, Richard Crockett Bushnell was born in Providence, Rhode Island on June 11th, 1909. Richard was the son of Leslie Bushnell, Leslie Bushnell being the 10th and making Richard the 11th. My father, John, would have been Richard's son. Richard grew up some in Providence and then in Connecticut as his father moved around, and ended up going to Brown University for 1 year where his father had gone, and then since Brown wasn't quite ready for him yet, he moved on down to Florida to Rawlings College where he graduated, and it was while he was in Florida that he met Emma Anderson, who would become his wife and become Emma Bushnell, my grandmother. Now while down in Florida, Richard really took into racing and got himself a race boat, and I remember as a grandchild, being 11 and visiting him out in Santa Barbara, California, that he showed me some of his racing trophies from racing boats and many other things. Three-wheeled sailing vessels that they would race across the salts, I guess, is what I remember him saying, and also three-bladed devices that they would sail across ice. So Richard was very much into competition. He loved to bowl and would spend his latter years in Santa Barbara lawn bowling. Anyway, so Richard and his wife, Emma, had two children, John Alden Bushnell and Barbara Bushnell. And John Alden Bushnell is the 12th generation. Richard would own a store right down the street from here, and he would sell TVs and other appliances. But Richard and Emma lived in this house right behind me, and Emma ran a preschool in the front room. And so this is where a lot of the childhood memories of John and Barbara would have been until 1955. By then, John had graduated, but they still lived here, and there was a great flood from a hurricane, and it destroyed the majority of downtown Winston, and including their store and most of their inventory. So they moved from here, and they thought they'd move to Florida, but they went on a cross-country track first, and while on the West Coast, ran into Santa Barbara, fell in love with it, bought a grocery store and a hotel, and that's what they did until they retired. While they lived out in Santa Barbara, each of the grandsons, that would be myself and my two little brothers, got to spend a couple of weeks out in Santa Barbara with them. I was 11 when I flew out there, and so that would have been 1974 when the first terrorist bombing on U.S. soil happened. It was at the Los Angeles International Airport on the day I arrived. For me, it was very exciting, sitting in the airplane extra long, finally being allowed to move out of the airplane and seeing all the police and the motorcycles everywhere. So that was an exciting day. For me, I'm sure it was a little bit different for them. And of course, this was long before cell phones. So you can imagine what that might have been like, picking up your grandson at the airport. But lots of memories here for my dad growing up in this house, and then for some of us grandchildren out in Santa Barbara visiting the motel out there.